This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 103-inch.
On this week's episode, we interview Chris Waffle of the acoustic nerd rock super duo Megathruster.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
This is Weird Al Yankovic, and you are listening to Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Me podcast.
For the first time in 4 weeks, we are not interviewing Joel Miller this week.
I think I got more text and messages about Joel Miller's appearance on our podcast than pretty much any other guest we've ever had on the podcast.
I mean, on one hand, he was on 3 episodes in a row, so there's more time for someone to text or message you about it. But I think probably what you're trying to say, Dave, is that interview in all 3 parts were pretty stinking majestic.
Yeah, I was so glad to hear that everyone enjoyed our 3-part interview with Joel Miller just so much.
Now, we recorded that, like we said, about a year ago, and we wanted to save it for a special occasion, and I have to say, I think we made the right choice. I think that interview was really cool. It was a really great way to celebrate hitting that milestone of 100 inches.
Oh yeah, for sure. Joel told so many great stories that have never ever been heard by anyone other than me, you, maybe Al and Joel, before.
Just getting to listen back to that after a year and getting to relive all of the humor. I mean, Joel is so funny. Maybe one of the funniest people we've ever had on the show. I just was cracking up listening back to it.
Yeah, and I think we just scratched the surface with Joel and all of his stories that he has to tell. He probably has so many more stories that he can share with us. So hopefully one day we will have him back on again.
That would be awesome. I mean, listening back, I couldn't believe how many more questions I had with each thing he said. And I can't believe we talked to him for, almost 3 hours.
Ethan, would you say that our interview with Joel Miller was a real monkey party?
I would absolutely say it was a monkey party.
I love that phrase. I'm going to start using that all the time now.
Well, as luck would have it, we're actually about 2.5 weeks away from our own monkey party.
Oh yeah, our big, exciting 2-year anniversary concert with Trevor Strong of the amazing Arrogant Worms.
The concert will be held on our actual 2-year anniversary, Saturday, May 8th. And it's a special perk for our Patreon supporters, their families, anyone who lives in their house at the $5 tier or above. And we're so excited for them to join us.
Oh yeah, Trevor's going to be performing some pretty stinking majestic songs, including some from the Arrogant Worms catalog and his own cover versions of Weird Al songs. You do not want to miss this concert.
Now, RSVPs are required because slots are limited. So if you want to go, make sure ASAP you RSVP to frank@2000inch.com.
Yeah, and if you're not a Patreon supporter yet, it's not too late. You can join now by visiting patreon.com/2000inch for access to this exclusive concert event.
Plus, you'll be supporting the podcast, and you're going to get all the perks of being a member of the Patreon family, like getting to hear our Black and White and Weird All Over bonus episodes before they're published.
Well, I'm so excited for that monkey party to start, and it's only 2.5 weeks away, so it's coming up. Make sure you RSVP. Make sure you join Patreon if you have not already. You want to be at this concert event.
Last week was really exciting for us, Dave, because we each got our very own copies of The Ruins of Our Past by Sebastian Shepard in the mail. How awesome!
That was such a nice surprise. Now, we all know Sebastian Shepard from our episode 87-inch. It is the pen name for David Grant.
We had such a fun interview with David Grant. He told us all about his book and so much more, his comedy rap persona, his other personas, interviewing George R.R. Martin. Oh,
Paul is dying.
Oh no, Paul!
Calm down, Ethan. I'm just doing the ad.
Oh.
Trapped beneath the ice on Christmas Eve, Paul revisits the events of his past and the ghosts of those who haunt him.
Yikers! Spooky!
Still doing the ad, Ethan.
Oh, phew.
The only one who can rescue him is a twisted Santa Claus.
Oh, like in the night Santa went crazy?
Exactly.
Well, what happens to Paul?
Well, Ethan, you're just going to have to read The Ruins of Our Past by Sebastian Shepard to find out.
Oh, well, good thing I have one in my mailbox.
It's not doing you much good in your mailbox. You should probably take it out and actually read it.
Ah, okay.
Head on over to wolfandwool.com for information about The Ruins of Our Past by Sebastian Shepard and David's other great projects.
And now it's time for us to do the ad.
No, we just finished the ad.
Oh, well, in that case, let's move on to This Week in Weird Al related news. The big news, Star Wars Detours is coming to Disney Plus next month.
After years of mystery surrounding the Star Wars parody show, Star Wars Detours by the Robot Chicken Guys, it has been reported that the series will drop on May 4th, Star Wars Day, on Disney+.
Now, if you remember, as we reported late last year, in what appeared to be a not-so-accidental leak, an episode featuring Weird Al as the voice of Forlom, the bounty hunter, showed up on Reddit and was even promoted by Weird Al himself before it was, quote-unquote, taken down.
Well, here's hoping that Forlom shows up in more than just that one episode. In other news this week, Weird Al makes yet another voice appearance on the TV show American Dad.
American Dad started its 18th season this week with a bang! As reported by our friend and Patreon supporter Joe Jaffa, the episode Who Smarted, that premiered on Monday night, again featured the song Rabbitage that Weird Al recorded for a previous episode. And he said it even showed up twice in the episode.
Very cool. It's nice to see that the folks over at American Dad are getting as much use out of that song as possible.
Yes.
I mean, I know that if somehow Weird Al were to do like a cameo on our podcast, we would be promoting the heck out of it and we would never stop talking about it. So I totally understand that what they're going through.
Totally. Well, here's hoping one day we get to experience something like that. Now, this is exciting news. Jim Kimo West will be a live guest on the show Guitars in the Round with Tasha Gherkin and Dakota Dave Hall on Sunday night.
Yes, that is this coming Sunday, April 25th at 11 a.m. Hollywood Star Time, 2 p.m. Burrito time.
The best way to watch the live stream is by joining the Guitars in the Round Facebook group. So be sure to join that ahead of Sunday's concert.
So there's some more exciting Weird Al news coming up this Friday, April 23rd, and that is Weird Al's appearance in Tiny Tim King for a Day will finally be coming to actual theaters.
Yes, so Tiny Tim King for a Day. Of course, this is the documentary we talked about with the producer and Tiny Tim biographer and historian Justin A. Martell back on episode 71 Inch.
Weird Al is featured in the documentary as the voice behind Tiny Tim's diary entries. We've both seen the Tiny Tim King for a Day documentary, and we absolutely love it. We know you all are going to love it as well.
Definitely see it if you get the chance. I'm sure it will be really fun with an audience for all the humor and all the shocking parts.
Ooh, we know that sound. That sound means that our intern Frank had bean burritos for lunch again.
And it also means that we received a message on the 347 Spatula Hotline. The 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, is sponsored by Angel Valenzuela and David Cash, two amazing Weird Al fans and podcast supporters.
All right, let's take a listen to this week's voicemail message.
Hey, Dave, Ethan, and intern Frank. This is Dustin calling from Indiana. And just want to let you know that I really love the Joel Miller episodes. Loved them all. And, of course, really enjoyed hearing all the different stories, behind-the-scenes things that has happened to Al over his career. And also want to let you guys know that Weird Al and Rick Derringer will be on Hangin' and Bangin' episode number 46 on April the 22nd. And that's on the Artists on Lockdown YouTube channel. And it just says it'll be, again, April 22nd, Hangin' and Bangin', number 46, Weird Al and Rick Derringer. I recall back in, I think it was 1986, where Al and Rick were on a episode of Howard Stern. So I hope in this episode we'll get some responses to some unanswered questions I've had since 1986. And I've been really looking forward to this episode and also looking forward to your podcast. Thanks so much.
Oh, cool. I remember when Weird Al and Rick Derringer were both on the Howard Stern show together. This sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, Dustin, thank you so much for giving us the heads up. That's coming up quick. Can't wait to check out Weird Al and Rick Derringer on Carmen Apice, Vinny Apice, and Ron Onesti's show on Thursday.
Oh, we got another call on the 347 Spatula hotline. Let's take a listen.
Hey Dave, hey Ethan, it's one of your majestic Patreon subscribers, Heather here. So I recently had the opportunity to try that famous footstep recipe made by the one and only David Footman mentioned in your 97-inch episode. And so I just wanted to give my review of it. So it's very delicious, dangerously delicious. If I was not aware beforehand of what went into this thing, I would have felt my skull collapse in on itself the next day from that footstep. You do not taste the alcohol in it. So the taste is very similar to that of a Shirley Temple meets a jungle juice sort of concoction. It's very fruity, tropical tasting, pretty much what you'd expect of a well-done fruit punch. If the traditional Shirley Temple is named after the cute child actor, the footstep clearly has the alcoholic mixture that is modeled after the hardened adult post-Hollywood Shirley, who, after spending years in the jungle becoming jaded and rough, has finally returned back home, and she is out for revenge by hitting hard. That is the footstep. So going into this, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive, a risk that I was willing to take for this, but I was reassured that the funeral expenses would have been covered if that were the case. That made me feel a little bit better until I had to find out that Frank would be in charge of that, and it's just like, come on, Frank? Out of everybody? But luckily I didn't die, so we don't have to worry about that. So it tastes good. I'm glad that I got to try it once in my life, but it's really like deep fried Oreos. Tastes heckin' good, but you're really chancing fate if you're going to get sick afterwards or not. And you really shouldn't have it more than once every 5 years if you plan on living a moderately long, healthy life. All right, so that's my review. Everybody's been warned. Looking forward to hearing more episodes and checking out those cool Patreon secrets and exclusives. Later.
Wow! Heather, thank you so much for the call and for reviewing The Footstep. Finally!
Yes, and as all our Patreon supporters are briefed, the funeral package available is restricted to Frank being in charge of your funeral. He decides what everybody sees, and he only has a budget of like $12.
Yeah, but it'll be great. Just trust Frank. But anyway, yeah, thank you so much for risking your life trying The Footstep. I personally cannot wait to try it myself.
And I personally cannot wait to try The Footstep either.
Well, Dave, you don't drink alcohol. You know, the Footstep, it's an alcoholic beverage.
Oh, yeah, I know about the alcoholic footstep beverage. I actually meant taking a footstep as in walking. I can't wait to try a footstep in my brand new pair of shoes.
Dave, don't wear those shoes.
Don't tell me what to do. Anyway, back on topic. I really enjoyed your review, Heather. Thank you for sharing that with us, and I hope you will continue to review more things for us.
Oh, what about a burrito?
Sure. This week's episode is brought to you in part by vegan Mexican restaurant Burrito in Troy, New York, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito your Burrito. Find them at burritosquared.com and at burritosquared on Instagram. And remember, not every burrito is a burrito, but every burrito can be burritoed. From Troy to Uranus, Burrito is out of this world.
Oh, I meant Heather could review a burrito for our show.
Yeah, she could do that. Or she could review our reading of the Burrito ad every week.
That would probably get old pretty quick. Anyway, I think it's about time for this week's interview.
All right, so there's this really cool song out there called Weird Al Rules, and I was hooked the second I saw the title. Ethan and I were both big fans, and we both understand that statement. But once you dig a little bit further into the song, it's actually a really heartfelt song with a very important message. And today on the podcast, we have with us the man behind the song. Now, you've heard him on the Dr. Demento Show and the FuMP. He's one half of the comedy duo Hot Waffles. He's one half of the nerdy rock band band, Megathruster, and he's 100% of the band, the Chris Waffle Explosion. It's our great pleasure to welcome Chris Waffle to the podcast. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Hey, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was trying to think back, Chris. I think I first saw your name on the alt.music Weird-Al news groups way back when, probably in the late 90s.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember those days. That's funny because I have kind of an embarrassing. I'd like to get something off my chest now that since you mentioned that, and I didn't even know you were going to mention it. But I have something to get off my chest because I've been carrying this with me ever since that time. How long has it been now? 20 years or something?
25.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. At least.
Yeah. So I was definitely a part of that, and I would chime in, and I was just happy to see other Weird Al fans in the universe because, I was, with me and maybe a couple of my buddies, in school, it was few and far between, to find a Weird Al fan, of our caliber. And so I was on that Usenet, and when Running with Scissors came out, and the saga begins, right? This is the video for Al's song, right? Comes out, and I was very excited for I took off from work on my lunch break. I got the album, the video premiered, and I was super into it, and people were talking about it on that chat, on the Usenet chat, whatever it was called. And I posted on there, and so we can all agree. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. We can all agree that Al is an amazingly talented musician, right?
Of course.
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But he's not known for playing guitar, right?
Right.
Right.
At the end of the video, he's in the desert. And it kind of the band falls away, and it's just him and the guitar, and he's singing "My, this your Anakin guy," And the way he's playing the guitar, because he didn't know how to play the guitar, was I noticed he was kind of just moving his hand up down the fret a little bit. So on the Usenet thing, I was like, "Come on, Al, that's not how you play guitar." And I was in my heart just kind of teasing, it wasn't like a real criticism. And and I kind of posted this thing, but I think if you were just reading it, it would sound like an internet troll just being a jerk, right? But I was like, I was kind of like, that's not. I forget exactly what I wrote. It's been a long time, but I was like, that's not how you play guitar. Come on, or something like that. And then I didn't think anything of it. A few years go by. I'm watching him or listening to an interview. I don't know where it was. I actually tried to find it later, but I remember clearly seeing an interview where he's talking about it, and he mentions that. He goes, and some guy is like, that's not how you play guitar. And I was like, screw you. And I was like, oh my God, that was me. And my heart sank. And I was like, oh no, does Al think I'm just like this troll a-hole, busting his chops, and nitpicking this thing? I was just joking around. So Al, if you're listening, I deeply, deeply apologize. Did not mean that. I loved the video. I thought it was awesome. Your fake guitar playing is amazing. And I hope that actually my wife is like, you shouldn't even tell that story. He doesn't know who you are. He doesn't care. He probably doesn't even know. And I was like, I have to get this off my chest regardless. I don't care if I'm just calling myself out. I've carried it with me, but now that I've said it and I've spoken it out loud, and I feel like, it's just like a huge weight is lifted off my shoulder right now.
I'm picturing that scene from Adam Sandler's Billy Madison with Steve Buscemi, and I feel like Al has just crossed your name off the people to kill list. So I think you're fine. Oh, that's so funny.
No, yeah. I hope so. I hope he's like, all right, Chris Waffle, we'll let bygones be bygones now, and it's like Al's enemy list. He has like an enemy list in his apparently he's like the nicest guy you could ever meet, but you don't know, maybe he has an enemies list in his closet, hidden away. The dark side of Al that doesn't exist.
Chris, looking at your history of music, I think anyone who's familiar with your work will know that you're a Star Wars fan. Is there a Force explanation that, Obi-Wan Kenobi would be able to play the guitar by moving his hands incorrectly?
Oh my gosh, that is a great point. I never thought of that, but I think you're totally onto something where you could say, you know what, you could use, it's not, if you have the Force, you wouldn't even need to press your fingers down in the right spot. It would be, the Force is creating the chords, right? And your hand is just like, it's like you move your hand to lift the X-Wing fighter out of the swamp. You put your hand around the neck of the guitar and it just plays. That actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like Weird Al's at home right now saying, that's exactly what I was going for. Obi-Wan playing with the Force. Why did Chris not see that 25 years ago? Why?
Exactly. That's why I was so pissed. Okay, he didn't get it at all.
He thinks he's a Star Wars fan.
Right. Time Magazine called Chris Waffle a professional Star Warsian. He doesn't know shit. I had it on lock.
Chris, it's obvious that your fandom of Weird Al has lasted decades. When do you first remember becoming a Weird Al fan?
100%. I remember watching Eat It for the first time on MTV one night in the living room of our house. My family had the Thriller album, and we played it in the car. We all sang it. We knew all the songs by heart. And so we really liked Thriller, I had a Michael Jackson poster on my wall, and one night, we were just watching, I think I had MTV on after school. It was early one evening. Well, maybe my mom was making dinner, and Eat It just came on, and my jaw hit the floor, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing. I mean, I was young, but I thought it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. And the Michael Jackson poster went off the wall, and and I just couldn't stop talking about it. And my mom was like, well, okay, and I was just like, no, you don't understand. This is the most important work of art that has been created by humanity, and she's like, what? And I'm like, now I know what I want to do when I grow up. And she was like, oh boy.
Wow.
And that was it. But then, I was so young, and I didn't even really have a record player. I didn't, have any real music to listen to my own. But then I had my dad buy me Dare to Be Stupid, which was the first record I ever owned. And actually, I brought that to the Self-Indulgent tour when he came to Portland, and Al signed it. So that was the first record I ever bought.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
So
cool.
That was very cool. That was a cool moment for him to sign that. I've had it all these years. So, but yeah, from there I was dialed in for sure.
Right. And that, of course, led, I guess, to you getting into comedy music along with your brother, Tim, with Hot Waffles, right?
Yeah. So, I was in I was in a couple of bands that I created in high school that was more after when I got into high school, I discovered This Is Spinal Tap. And so that was a big driving force for me too. I'm a huge fan of satire, so kind of my love of Al, my love of Spinal Tap, and I was trying to do those kind of things. And so I had written some parodies, but they just weren't great. And honestly, you can't top Al's parodies, and I was always more drawn to the originals anyway. I love the parodies, and they make me laugh, but I feel like when I want to listen to music, I always return to the originals. And so I started writing kind of my original songs, and they were kind of more of a satirical, like in a Spinal Tap vein. And then I went to college, And yeah, everyone kind of moves away after graduation. Those bands broke up, and I went to college and started a radio show at Cal State Long Beach on their student radio station. And then I asked my brother I was like, you want to form a band? And so, yeah, so we came up with Hot Waffles, and there were a few different iterations of that as well. But it was a lot of fun.
And for those at home who are wondering, is Waffle, is it a stage name? Is that your real name?
Well, it's it's Belgian in origin, and so thank you.
I got it.
It is. I got Kevin Smith laughed at that joke more than you guys, but I appreciate it. It is so. It is a lot of people don't know this, and it was something I kept secret for a long time, but it is a stage name. And my brother Tim, we're half brothers, and I thought it would be funny if we don't look a ton alike, and if we were, like the Ramones were like Joey Ramone, like they all had the last name Ramone,
right?
So I wanted to do something like that, and we were trying to think of a name, and I had this special edition CD-ROM of This Is Spinal Tap, and as one of the extras, it had this long list of every name that Spinal Tap had gone through, and it was just a ridiculous list of all these ridiculous band names, and one of them was Hot Waffles.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was reading the list, and I got to that, and I just started busting up, and I called my brother on this pre-cell phone. I called him up, and I said, "Hey, I got it." And I go, "I'm Chris Waffle, you're Tim Waffle, and together we're Hot Waffles." And he laughed, and that was what it was. So I feel like I've been Chris Waffle actually longer than my actual last name. I never really changed. I didn't change it legally because my family on my dad's side is pretty small, and my father passed away a few years ago. And so I was like, well, I'm going to, to honor my family, I'm not going to change it legally, but Facebook thinks it's my real name, so I might as well be.
Wow.
I always thought it was your real name, so you pulled one over on me for the last.
Well, there it is.
Years.
I know that's you've got to. I've never revealed that in any interview, so this is an exclusive.
Wow.
For you guys.
Wow.
Sorry, Joel Miller, you don't have all the good stories.
Wow.
He does have
Joel,
all the good stories.
Joel Miller, if that is your real name.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. He could be Joel Waffle. We don't know.
So you start the band Hot Waffles, and how soon does Hot Waffles cover Waffle King?
Oh gosh, that was pretty early. We started playing shows as like a full band. My brother was playing drums at first, and I was playing bass, and then we had this other guy playing guitar. We were kind of like a power trio, we were playing around Orange County a lot with like Joe and the Chicken Heads.
Oh, and I know those guys.
Or they're called the Radioactive Chicken Heads.
Yeah.
Now, and we were playing a lot of shows with them and doing these funny kind of all ages shows. And I went online, and through the radio show I was doing called the All You Can Eat Buffet of Musical Madness, because I love super long, overly complicated titles. They are like hard to type out. It was like filled with
us too,
things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We can.
Oh
relate.
yeah. No, you guys get it. You guys get it. I started meeting people like Grant Bachoco of Throwing Toasters, and Jeff and Matt from Raven and Scum, and Luke Ski would come out. I had all these people on the show. Either some of them were at the campus and they were just doing funny little things, at school, and then they went off to do whatever their career was, but I started getting people when people came to town. As kind of to guest on the show and perform on my show, and I was just having a blast. I loved interviewing people, and it was a lot of fun. And then through that, started just getting into that online world where like-minded people were doing it, but I was having trouble because, I was kind of financially, I didn't have a ton of money to put into like recording well. I was trying to get like a little home studio thing going. I had a 4-track at one point. It didn't sound real great. Had trouble affording a studio. But we did. So you asked me about the Waffle King.
Yeah.
The first cover I did was Mr. FuMP and The Iron Lung, and I think that was on Prosthetic Lips. And I recorded that in my living room, and instead of a Mr. FuMP sound, I used a slide whistle, and it was just really weird. And like I have my I don't think my ex-wife, I don't think we were married at the time. She played like keyboard on it. Wow. And I just sang. We just kind of sang it in this microphone. And I haven't heard it in so long, but that was my first. It was Mr. FuMP and The Iron Lung was my first thing that was released. It's not. It was. I don't go and try to find it. It's not worth it. But then after that, so that was like in the late, the late 90s, and then I think maybe early 2000s, I do this version of the Waffle King because I was Chris Waffle. And he had a song called "I'm the Waffle King," and I thought, well, it's like peanut butter and jelly. It's like it goes right together. So I worked up something for that, and I listen to it now, and I'm like, well, I tried.
It must have been decent enough because it did make it on Me, Myself, and I tribute album there. So now you've got 2 songs on Weird Al tribute albums.
Yeah. I don't know if that was they were just taking pity on me because I was trying my best, or I'm not sure. But no, I appreciate it. It was fun. I love covers of Al's stuff. I love different takes on it. I have an old record by a band called Your Mother.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, have you guys heard that? Super. It was like these punk rock versions of some of the songs. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
So I love that stuff.
Yeah, we've had Craig Billmeyer from Your Mother on the podcast before. Yeah, we absolutely love that band. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So you mentioned that you did college radio, and I guess you were at California State University in Long Beach. And there's a Weird Al story related to this. You actually had the pleasure on your radio program to world premiere a Weird Al song. Can you tell us how that happened?
Oh, that was a highlight. It was a truck driving song. So, well, I guess spoiler alert to the end of the story, but I'll go backwards to the beginning of the story. I've been getting more and more people on this show, and they had actually moved when I first had this show, this student studio was kind of in this closet in this far off building, and it was like technology from the 70s, and then someone got a grant to like redo it in the new student union that they created. And then it was all fancy. And so then I felt more confident to try to get higher profile people to come in. And I do my show on Saturday mornings, and to try to make it easy and stuff. And so people were coming on, and I was just having a blast. And I reached out to John Bermuda Schwartz, just tried to do an interview because I knew he wasn't too far away, and he agreed for some reason. And and he goes, we just finished, kind of mixing, and we've got, the album's not out yet. There was nothing about it. We didn't know anything about it, what any of the songs were going to be. And he's like, the mixing's done, everything's done, and I've got it, and I'll just do a premiere, just a little clip of it and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, sure. What? So he comes on and we do the interview, and I kept saying song. I knew it was literally like a 1 second like clip just as a joke, but I kept saying song. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like correcting me. He's like, it's just a clip. And I'm like, no, I know. And so, he's got it on a CD. So I hit play, and it's just like the last chord of the song. and it plays, it kind of fades out, and I was like, wow. And it was just, it was. I know it was supposed to be a joke, but I was actually super excited. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, my life will never top this moment.
I mean, here we are talking about it 20 plus years later.
Yeah. World premiere.
I remember it happening, Chris.
Do you really?
Yeah, I remember. You must have posted something on alt.music weird
I'm
Al
sure
that it was going to happen. And I remember, like, I'm trying to listen to this radio station over the internet, and I've got it kind of feeded through, a really primitive boombox that I have so I could record it, because I'm thinking, Bermuda's bringing a Weird Al song and going to play something. And even if it's a short clip, it's still brand new Weird Al stuff I have not heard.
Yeah.
So I just remember being so excited about it. And then the payoff to that joke was incredible, and I loved it. But technically you did premiere a Weird Al song on your radio show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and thank you, John. It was an amazing moment. I remember it really better than my kids being born. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting down in the chair behind the control panel. And it was cool. I think I actually still have the CD somewhere where it's just that. It's just one track and you play it. And it's just that.
Wow.
It's just that strum at the end of the truck driving song.
That's incredible.
He wouldn't even tell me what the song. He wouldn't tell me anything about the album. He wouldn't tell me what the song was. He was very tight-lipped, and I think it's important to Al and the band that everything be a cool surprise, when it's released.
Right.
And he wouldn't really tell me about it, but I was just like, I want to hear more of this song.
Absolutely. I think for probably months, that's all we knew about the new album was just this one little chord, and that one of the titles had a T in it.
Yeah.
Because I think he said it had a T in it, right? The title starts with a T.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. And he goes, because I was like, what's it called? Yeah. And he goes, well, it has a T. And it did. It had two T's.
Wow.
And I think he did an interview too where, he did an online interview or something, and I asked, are you going to do a ska, pastiche, style parody? And he was like, yeah, I am. And so that was the horoscope.
Yeah.
Now, I understand you also worked with Bermuda again on a music project.
Yeah. This was in 2004, and the group, the comedy duo Raymond and Scum were recording an album, and I was playing bass. I played bass on a couple of their albums, and they apparently asked John, maybe you can have him on the show and ask them, tell them this story. I don't remember how it came about, but they asked him, hey, will you play drums on a couple of our songs? And he said, yeah. And so we ended up in Whittier at like Matt's parents' house and recording, and he set everything up. We kind of recorded in his bedroom, because they had a friend who had like a home like recording studio set up, which is, I mean, today it's kind of common, and you can have a lot of you can make your really great sounding studio in your house, but back then it was harder. And so, but he had a setup, and he set it up, and I got there early to kind of lay down my bass tracks, and I just thought it was awesome. There's a picture of like the four of us, John and myself and Matt and Jeff, like on the steps of his house. And Matt and Jeff are so tall, and I'm not that tall, but I stood up a step above to kind of make it look like I was like a similar height to them. So if you see that picture, it's like I'm actually not that tall. But it was interesting because I think they did this with him, and they would do it with me. They'd be like, oh, here's a little demo of how the song goes. Show up and just like record it. And this might be hard for the listeners at home to believe. I'm not that great of a bass player. I got capable, and then I was like, that's good enough. And so I'm better now. But I show up, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, oh, I'll do this little bass line here, and we're kind of recording and trying to do. And I'm thinking in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm really nailing this. But John comes in, and he's like, and he's just like, he needs like 2 takes max. He's like pro all the way, like knocking it out of the ballpark. Sounds amazing. And we're kind of we were talking about, and he was like, well, I forget what we were talking about, but it kind of came up that like the rhythm was a little off, and it was me, basically. It was like, well, and I was like, and I'm like, okay, and he's used to playing with Steve J. I can't compete with that, and I'm like, okay, and I forget what the comment was. He said something like, well, we all try our best or something like that. No, I just started laughing. They all started busting up, and I can make fun of myself, and I was like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm not Steve J, that's for sure. I'm like, I was doing the best I can, but he was being super cool about it. It was fun. I could laugh. It was like, well, the bass is it's there, Okay.
Well, hey, you got to record with John Bermuda Schwartz, not only your radio show but also on some music. How cool is that?
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I can listen to those songs, and I'm like, there's John's drums, and there's my passable bass. I know. Hopefully they fixed it in post or something. I'm like, just go in there and edit it, so I'm like on the beat.
So, Chris, you've been a member of several bands that have actually been played on Dr. Demento. What was it like hearing one of your songs on Dr. Demento?
Oh, man. So, that was another thing that Al introduced me to, because after seeing Eat It for the first time and getting super into Al, I saw at the video store a copy of the complete Al, and which I got. And I just watched it over and over and over again. And in there is where I first heard about Dr. Demento. So after that, I listened to Dr. Demento every week, Sunday nights. It was on KDON in San Jose when I was that age. And, I would listen to it. My mom would say, you can stay up, because it would end at like 11 or something. It was later than I usually stayed up. My mom said, you can stay as long as you get up for school the next day, stay up as late as you want. So I'd say, okay. So I set my alarm. I listened to Dr. Demento. And so, it was religious, every Sunday. That was my church.
Yeah.
was listening to Dr. Demento on Sunday night. And so, to hear him, play one of my songs, I'm not as cool as like Luke Ski and Devo Spice and Insani, and they're all in the top 20 countdown every year. But he's played my stuff a few times, and it's always just a great honor. It's just a great honor. If I could go back and tell my nerdy self,
yeah,
hey, you're going to be playing on
Right.
Dr. Demento, I'd be like, hey, I don't need to accomplish anything else in life. Perfect. But probably one of the coolest things though was actually getting to go to his house. When I lived in Orange County, he lived pretty close to me. And so I had done a kind of a duo rap song with you guys are familiar with Luke Ski, right?
Yeah.
The great Luke Ski.
Of course.
Sure, of course.
And yeah, so I had done a thing, and he was coming out to get interviewed on Dr. Demento Show, and Luke was like, you want to do this new song? We'll do it live. So we went over, and I got to see Dr. Demento's house. I was where he has his records in the side building, and
Wow.
and he took us on a tour and everything, and then where he recorded it, and then Luke and I did the song live on his show, and then we went to lunch with him. It was awesome.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Demento also, he did a live performance of he does like a live show, like a live version of his show. And he did that on at the junior college that I had gone to previously. And I reached out to him, and he let us do a little set in between his sets.
Wow.
And for the people. So that was
cool.
That was super cool too. So yeah, no, I have a lot of great memories for that. And now he comes up to Portland where I am now and does a thing at Reed College every year. And so I can go and watch that and say hi to him. And yeah, it's been great. He's awesome. I mean, him and Al, everybody's just, it's a great, cool community to be in when you're creating this stuff, and everybody's just really great.
Oh, for sure. It's a good group.
Do you remember the first song of yours that Dr. Demento played?
I do, and this is not, well, it wouldn't have been my choice, but so right when I first started, I was like, I'm gonna be you know what's gonna be big in the future? Comedy music. Everybody's gonna love it. So I'm gonna do that, and I have my 4-track machine, and I created this parody. I was still kind of writing parodies sometimes.
Okay.
And I wrote a parody. It was when the new Star Wars was going to come out. So another Star Wars song. I do Star Wars songs like Al does songs about food. So like this was, so the new Star Wars was going to come back. So this is like 1996. Like it hadn't come out yet. And but the trailers had come out, and I was like, what is it? Where are the stormtroopers? Right? There's no stormtroopers. It's a prequel, but there's no stormtroopers don't exist yet. But I was like, well, is this Star Wars? And so I did a parody of Where Have All the Cowboys Gone by, I don't remember her name now. And I called it Where Have All the Troopers Gone? And it was a pretty bad, like the quality wasn't that great. But when it got to but I was playing the parts of like super nerds. So like I was singing it like I was I had like a nasally voice, and I did it like as two characters. I had like a nasally voiced nerd, and then a guy who sounded like the comic book shop guy from The Simpsons.
Right.
And then, so, and I kind of layered them together, and it was, but when it got to the chorus, I sang it bad on purpose, it sounded bad. So he played it as kind of part of the audio torture chamber, and so he plays the song and it gets to the chorus and he just kind of fades it out and goes, okay, well, anyway, that's a song, and so I was like, well, on one hand, I got played on Dr. Demento. On the other hand, I don't know if I want anyone to know that I was played on Dr. Demento with this one. Why did I send it to him?
Wow.
But then years later, my song "Living on a Roll and a Prayer" was played, and it ended up on one of the basement tapes, and that was a huge honor.
Oh,
so
how cool!
Oh, nice.
I got it. I was more proud of that one by far.
Right.
Now, Dave mentioned this at the beginning of the interview, and I'd love to hear the story behind it. Your song from your band Megathruster called Weird Al Rules. What is the origin of that, and tell us about the song?
So I start working on songs for the second Megathruster album, and at the time, that album was very much about, a lot of what was on my mind was the fact that Donald Trump had just won the presidency. So, won't get political, but that was weighing heavily on my mind when I was writing the album.
Okay.
And one thing that I'd been thinking a lot about was bullying. And I was very bullied for the stuff I liked, and just kind of being this nerd. And I was overweight, I was short, and my clothes were messed up, and I was very much kind of picked on and bullied, and I talking a lot about it with my current wife. I started getting these memories back, kind of telling her about these things, and we had been married a couple of years, but I started telling her kind of about this stuff that had happened, and she said, I think it would be good for you to write a song about that. I think it would help you kind of get that stuff kind of out of your, you've suppressed it, in the back of your mind. It might help you to really make something out, and it might help people to know that, that stuff happened to you. Because one of the stories was, and basically what the song is about is, in junior high, I had these, like, it wasn't really a Trapper Keeper, but this binder, and I took a Sharpie marker and I wrote Weird Al Rules, really huge, big, bold letters and all capital letters on it. And man, these guys saw it one day and they were like, Weird Al Rules. Weird Al is the F word, and knocked it out of my hand, pushed me down. And I was like, no. I was like, I refused to let them win. And I just kept, I'd get a new one and I'd write it again. And so my wife's like, well, look, and then I go, they were telling you that stuff and doing this, but look, you grew up, and look at our amazing life, and look at the stuff you've been able to do, and you played these shows and met these people, and it got better. You didn't, what they were telling you, you were a loser and all this, is not true. So that was kind of, it was very hard for me to kind of go to that place and write. I very much, and this was especially the case with Hot Waffles, was like, I'm not, I'm Chris Waffle, this character, and I'm just going to put a wall up and make jokes about everything, and everything's a joke. And, I had to tear that wall down and kind of go into like a really kind of uncomfortable place for me, even though it's been all these years. And kind of talk about it, like all that stuff that happened in this whole song is, if you listen to it, all that stuff is true. And there's much more that didn't make the song, but that was kind of the gist of it. And so, and not to say that, again, I'm not, there are a lot of worse childhoods out there. But I feel like for, people now, also something that was happening at the same time in the town that I lived in was, things for the LGBTQ community. The town was kind of having a backlash against some of the LGBTQ community. It's kind of a long story, but that was, that I was thinking a lot about that too, and just bullies in general, and so, yeah, so that was what it was behind it. I called it Weird Al Rules because that's what I wrote on my binder. I didn't really think that, I didn't think about this, but now I wonder if after it was released, I was like, are people thinking Weird Al Rules, this is going to be a song about how awesome Weird Al is, and kind of this like tribute to his awesomeness, because he rules. But it's like, and then you listen to it and you're like, oh, I want to cry now. I didn't really think about that when I came up with the title, but so I wasn't trying to trick anyone, but that's how it came out, and that's what I called it. And I got Aubrey Weber from an amazing group called the Double Clicks, plays cello on it, and
cool.
I have only performed it live. I've only performed it live once, and because it's a little, it takes me to an uncomfortable place and a lot of memories I don't like to think about. So I've only performed it once, but it got a really good reception. And I got, for instance, I got contacted by someone. I'm a teacher in Florida, and I played your video and your song for the kids in my class, and it created a really good discussion about bullying and things like that. And I've gotten contacted from people who've reached out to me. So that really meant a lot, and it did kind of help me resolve some of those feelings from being just kind of put down and beat up all the time, especially in junior high. So so that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely encourage any of our listeners who haven't heard it yet to seek out this song, Weird Al Rules by Megathruster. I mean, like you said, it's really an emotional, a deep, heartfelt song, and you can tell that you put your heart into it. And I understand listening to it, I kind of tear up for that kid in that song, for you in that song, as I'm listening to it each and every time. So it's definitely an emotional song, and it definitely touches on the subject of bullying, in general, and how, you as a person overcame that bullying. So it's definitely a song I would recommend any of our listeners go out and seek out if they have not heard already.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it would have been much easier for me at that age to have been like, I don't like Weird Al. What are you talking about? And then like ran home and listened to Weird Al, like, and
right.
Not tell anyone, but instead I had a really big mouth and I was just like, no, you know what? Weird Al rules. I play Dungeons and Dragons. You're the one who's lame, not me. And then, I'd find myself upside down in a trash can. But, I tried. I was always representing for Weird Al, no matter what.
Right. Right. I think there's probably a lot of people out there who kind of had to hide their Weird Al fandom for reasons like that, or any of their nerdy, geeky fandoms, Harry Potter, Star Wars, anything else, that typically isn't mainstream and people would get picked on for. So sorry you had to go through all that, but I'm glad that you were able to put that song out.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It really, just like my wife said, she's always right. She's listening to this. She's always right. And it was actually very therapeutic for me to kind of go to that place and then to hear people say, yeah, you know what, that something like that happened to me, or yeah, that song was really good and it made me think about things or whatever. Everyone's got kind of a trauma or something that's happened to them, and so I went out of my comfort zone, and now it'll be back to Star Wars songs again ASAP.
You performed at Alfest 2009. Can you tell us what that experience was like?
Yes, in beautiful Costa Mesa, California.
Ooh.
It was a ton of fun. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And what I remember from it is I wanted to make a new song about Weird Al. I would always do this to my brothers. So we would never practice. And then I would be like, 2 days before a show, I'd be like, I have a new song we should do. And then, we'd barely learn it and it would just be bad. So I was like, I have a new song called The Night Weird Al Came to Town. And I don't even barely remember this song because we only performed it that once and never revisited because it didn't really go over that well. But I was like, Weird Al fans are going to eat this up. It's about Weird Al coming to town, and it was about my first time seeing Al in concert, which was in Mountain View when he was touring with the Monkees. That was my very first concert I had ever been to in my life. And so I kind of made up a song kind of about that experience, about that going. But I wanted it for some reason when I was writing it, I was like, this should be a new wave song. So I kind of made it I don't know why, like a new wave song. And it just, I don't even know. I probably forgot some of the lyrics. My brother didn't know how to play it. And it probably went over pretty poorly. We never kind of revisited that. So that's one thing I remember. The other thing I remember is that then the other performers who were there had booths in the back of the place. So it's the stage is way in the front, and then there was chairs, and then booths are in the back facing the stage, which I thought was cool because I wanted to see everyone perform and still man my booth. And so, some other acts go on and Throwing Toasters is there and some others. And Jim West is the headliner. And he comes up and starts doing his awesome Slack Key stuff and everything. And I'm kind of watching it. And then he starts doing this amazing cover of, you guys have probably heard it, but he starts doing an amazing cover of Buy Me a Condo.
Right, yeah. And
which I had never heard him do. It was a surprise to me. So I immediately recognized it, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's playing, this is awesome. And he's singing it and he's doing it, and someone comes up to my booth, wants to buy an album. When I had some stuff for sale. It's she's like, oh, album, $10 or something. And I'm like, shh, scoot over. I'm trying to watch Jim play Buy Me a Condo. And she's trying to buy it. I'm like, no, not now. Not now. Take it and go. Jim West is playing Buy Me a Condo. Get out of here. So I don't think didn't really make a fan that day, but I had a great time. And then I walk out, and in the lobby, Ruben is out there and Victoria Jackson, and everybody's kind of just chatting around. I was like, this is kind of surreal, but it's super cool.
Wow.
Right.
So, long story short, Jim West is amazing. If I'm watching Jim West, don't come between me and the stage, because I'm concentrating.
We hear you on that one. Absolutely. 100% agree.
Okay, excellent. Good. All right. You guys are on my side, right?
You made the right call.
Yeah, the nerve of that woman.
Okay. Exactly. How dare you try to buy one of my albums? Can't you see who's on stage? You don't want this crap.
Well, Chris, this has been really cool getting to chat with you. For information on your music, we can head to megathruster.com. That's for your acoustic rock music, including Weird Al Rules. You also have another persona, a comedy rap persona, the Chris Waffle Explosion, and we can get information at chriswaffle.bandcamp.com. On Instagram, you are the Waffle King, or just Waffle King.
Waffle King, yes.
And real quick before we go, I'd love if you could give us a little bit of information about your YouTube channel, Nerds in Oregon.
Yeah, so along with all that stuff, my wife and I started a vlog on YouTube. So, and this is also where my Chris Waffle Explosion music videos are. But we love to travel, and so we started kind of there's a ton of these, but we love traveling, we love theme parks, we love crazy little hole-in-the-wall places, and so we started a travel vlog where we just kind of go and try to do a lot of it's just kind of funny and tongue-in-cheek, but we just kind of do videos kind of about wherever we're doing. I don't know if there's even an overall theme because it has a bunch of crazy stuff, but we have a big series about our trip to Japan, and
cool.
We took a road trip through the Midwest to get our puppy during the pandemic, and that was weird. And then Joel, the other half of Megathruster, said, I want to report a complaint because your vlog is called Nerds in Oregon, yet you're never in Oregon, and none of the videos are about Oregon. And so I said, well, yeah. So I think when things are safer, we're gonna have to do some Oregon stuff. But anyway, yeah, you go to YouTube and go to Nerds in Oregon, and you can see me in Japan, I guess, at Tokyo Disney.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome. Chris, this is really cool. It's always a blast for us to talk to another fellow Weird Al superfan like yourself, and what a great story you have, and all these great touches in Weird Al history, from premiering the truck driving song to recording with Bermuda and being on all the tribute albums. That's just so cool. So
yeah, no, it's been being a Weird Al fan. It's just brought me so much joy, and also a lot of artistic kind of I won't say success, but kind of what's the word? It's like just a great feeling of being able to just be involved, even if tangentially, kind of in kind of a comedy music scene and the world of Dr. Demento and all the fans and everything.
Yeah.
It's just been great.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for part 2. Or this is a 3-parter like Joel Miller's, right?
Of course.
No?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, it's been a blast. Great talking to you. I haven't talked this much about Weird Al. Like, I can't remember. I could go on and on and on.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
It is always cool to have someone on our podcast who's been such an active member of the Weird Al community for as long as Chris has.
And I can't believe we got the world exclusive that Waffle is not his real name. You know how he mentioned writing Weird Al rules on his binder in Sharpie? Now, I told him that would make an extremely cool t-shirt. Just his handwriting on a t-shirt that says Weird Al rules. I would wear that all the time.
That's a great idea. Or we could just get a whole bunch of binders and write Weird Al rules on it in Sharpie ourselves.
That works.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also fashionable.
Did you know listener and Patreon supporter Jackson Scoggins received a Discover Darwin t-shirt in the mail last week?
Wait, what? There are no Discover Darwin t-shirts.
Well, apparently there are. Didn't you see Jackson's photo?
Well, I did see Jackson's photo, and I assume Jackson was partaking in tomfoolery and had the image altered. Are you suggesting that that image of that photo was untainted?
It was certainly untainted, Dave.
I feel like we need to sue someone over that image. We need to find a really good lawyer in Darwin, Minnesota.
I'm not seeing any lawyers in Darwin, Minnesota, actually.
Well, what comes up when you search our extensive Discover Darwin database?
Well, Google, our extensive Discover Darwin database just keeps showing me lawyers in Litchfield.
Ugh, Litchfield, yuck.
Oh, and ads to find single lawyers on Match.com.
Ooh, single lawyers.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to visit discoverdarwin.biz.
Each week we are able to bring you this podcast absolutely free thanks to sponsors like Burrito, Angel Valenzuela and his son David Cash, Discover Darwin, Jackson Scoggins, David Grant, and our amazing close personal friend Patreon supporters like Allison, Blair, Jared, Jeff, Javier, Kenneth, Mark, and Zeb. We also give thanks to JM and everyone else in our Patreon family.
Revenue from our incredible supporters on patreon.com/2000inch allows us to continue doing what we love, which is making fantastically fun, funny, family, feline, and Fido-friendly Weird Al podcasts for you each and every week. We'd absolutely appreciate your consideration in joining our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family for as little as $1 per month.
And remember, just 2.5 weeks away, all of our Patreon supporters at the $5 and above tier get to join us at our 2-year anniversary concert on our actual anniversary, May 8th, starring Trevor Strong of the Arrogant Worms. If you're not a Patreon supporter yet and you want to attend, be sure to sign up right now to reserve your spot.
Now, we get questions all the time from many, many people, and they say, well, I'm looking for another way to support your podcast. Well, friends, you are in luck. You can head right over to shop.2000inch.com for official Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast merchandise. T-shirts, tote bags, mugs, tank tops, face masks, pillows, and so much more.
You can also find us online at weirdalpodcast.com or 2000inch.com, where you can find information about all of our guests and listen to past episodes, like episode 49-inch, where we interview Marnie Farlow, Weird Al's touring merchandise coordinator. Please join our Facebook group by heading to group.2000inch.com for episode discussions and other exclusive content. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 2000inch and at youtube.2000inch.com. Be sure to share our posts and always, always tell your friends to gill and chill.
We love it when you leave us voicemail via our 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline 347 Spatula. You might even hear your message on the air. You can catch our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or the podcast app of your choice. Whichever you choose, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes when they drop every Wednesday.
This spring, we will begin airing our series of bonus episodes where we sit down with John Bermuda Schwartz and go page by page, picture by picture, inch by inch through his book, Black and White and Weird All Over. Time is running out for you to grab the book if you want to be able to follow along with those bonus episodes. Plus, what a better way to celebrate Bermuda being on next week's episode.
Wow, cool! No way!
And remember, Patreon supporters, you get to hear all of our bonus episodes early, so there's yet another reason for you to join our Patreon family.
Thank you once again to our guest this week, Chris Waffle, and thank you as well to Dustin Jablonski, Kenneth Gwinnett, David Grant for sending us each a copy of The Ruins of Our Past, Heather, aka Spunky Siren, for her review of the Footstep alcoholic beverage, And Joe Jaffa, who usually does our alcoholic beverage reviews, but now has some competition. Thank you to Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible theme song. Thank you to Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thanks to all of you, our listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everyone else who made this episode and podcast possible.
That's right. You heard it earlier. Next week is our season 2 finale, and John Bermuda Schwartz will be joining us with even more rare Weird Al clips.
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 103-inch.
Like a good close personal friend, Weird Al is there.
Now this is, are you actually going to play this thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, how could I deny the fans a true taste of the next album?
It's just an excerpt. I can't even tell you the name of the song.
All right, that's fair enough.
It's the song that begins with the letter T.
Okay.
And it's an excerpt from that song.
All right. Are you ready, Uncle Bacefus? I'm excited. What do you think?
Can't wait to hear this new tune.
It's just an excerpt. Obviously, I can't play the whole song.
Right. Okay. Well, here we go.
Okay.
Ready, set. All right.
On K-Beach. Yeah.
K-Beach Radio. An
That's-
excerpt from, let's hear that again.
We got time?